This is the Mortgage Note Podcast. We're speaking with Ryan Grant, president of Neo Home Loans, powered by Better.
It takes a highly skilled, competent, financially literate mortgage professional to help someone understand the difference between what they can do and what they should do. Right? Because you can go to a lot of places and get a pre-approval letter in a matter of minutes, and that letter will tell you what you can do, but it doesn't ever tell you what you should do. Right? And so we help our clients in the before part of the transaction by removing fear, anxiety, uncertainty, and replacing it with excitement, confidence, education, motivation. And we do that just by asking really great questions, helping them understand how this decision will impact their family's generational wealth for years to come. We show them different opportunities for different purchase prices, different down payment amounts, different monthly payments. And ultimately, we just in a very consultative way, we walk them through what's possible for them and their family, and we help them make really confident, smart decisions as kind of a step one. And then step two is complete the transaction, but then there's an infinite number of steps afterwards to ensure that they actually become a successful, well-rounded homeowner. And that's where we really lean in, right? 60% of the value we provide is really post-closing to the consumer. And I think that's what the average person is realizing. They actually need that more than they need, the cheapest interest rate or the lowest cost. But our industry has never offered that before, right? We've always just been close the transaction, and then the rest of the weight of the world is on their shoulders.
What is the outreach of Neo Homes? How many states are you available in, and how do you differ from other lenders?
Neo is licensed in all 50 states. We have local presence, I think, in about 27 states as of today, right, where we actually have physical locations. We focus on 5 unique pillars of the business, right? Because what got us to this point in the mortgage industry is not going to get us kind of to the next 10 years. And so the first thing we focus on is our value proposition, right? What we offer to the consumer is just drastically different and what I believe to be much more valuable than the average mortgage company, right? The average mortgage company is going to close your loan on time with good customer service, speed, communication, all those things. We have a before, during, and after process, and I just walked you through a little bit. But the after part is where we really focus. Right? If you look at a lot of our client testimonials, the reason why so many families are choosing Neo Home Loans is because they didn't even know that they could get help after closing. Right? They didn't know that anybody was going to be there to help them year in and year out and help them navigate the changes and evolutions in their life and how to manage their liability and how to manage their asset and how to plan for future real estate goals, help parents and children, retire with real estate, make sure it's appropriately covered from an insurance perspective. So when we tell our clients what we do and what our commitment is to the long-term generational wealth, it's awesome to see the response. Like, wow, I didn't know that mortgage companies did that. And we believe that clients will expect that from their mortgage lenders moving forward. So the value proposition of what we offer is extremely important to us. The technology, because of our partnership with Better, is reducing our costs, allowing us to be more competitive for our clients. It's increasing our scalability, helping us help more families without having to hire and fire with the market. And ultimately, it's creating efficiencies that allow our team to spend more time with our clients, right? To spend more time educating and analyzing and giving people information that they need, because we're not chasing paperwork and doing all the minutia that we've typically done. And so, that technological advancement is, it's really something that most companies are very much behind on. But because, Tin Man is a proprietary product, and other companies really can't access it in today's environment. We all just thought we were the same as everybody else prior to joining Better. And so the technological advancement is massive for us. And the use of AI in our system is helping us do more, helping us lower costs, and helping us really be more valuable to the client.
How does AI do that for you?
So there's a lot of examples I can give you, but one really good example is that we can talk to our loan origination system as if it were a underwriter or a close refunder or a compliance analyst or a marketing specialist, right? So we have our Betsy chat built inside of the LOS, right? So for example, if it could catch that maybe the underwriter or the processor didn't realize that on page 8 of the bank statement, there was an IRS installment payment, and the client may not have disclosed that, right? Or the mortgage advisor may not have asked for that. And so it will catch that when it's analyzing the documents, and it will alert us. And then we can just ask it, okay, will this have an impact on the debt to income ratio? And then it'll analyze it and spit it back to us. And then It'll say, would you like me to draft an email to the client asking for the right, the right documentation to support this? Great. Would you like me to send it? Great. And so this is all things that humans would have to do, right? Or they'd miss it, or they'd have to spend the time calculating the income and adding a new liability. And that's just one of, hundreds, if not thousands of examples I can give you on how AI is just making our life easier when it comes to the fulfillment of a transaction and then ultimately the consumer experience, right? Because the client can get information about their loan 24 hours a day, right? They can talk to somebody and ask questions about their loan. We can call out and ask questions from our AI chat experience. These are all things that 12 months ago, we have to have humans do, right? And what that does is it creates a lot of insecurity because job security in the mortgage industry has never been great. But now our teams can help 3, 4, 5 times the number of families in more meaningful ways, right? They're not dealing with minutia and checking boxes, which really no one wins when you have humans doing that, right? But if the human can do their genius zone work and they can really help the consumer, be more confident throughout the transaction, less anxiety ridden, right? We can help make sure they have a confidence level that is extremely high, right? Then they can actually realize, wow, this company's great. We should probably engage with them post closing because, if they were that good during the transaction, imagine how they can help us for the next 30 years.
Speaking of that a little bit more in helping the consumer after they get the mortgage, because yeah, what you say is a fairly new outlook, and that yeah, you get a place to send a bill every month for the next 30 years,
Yeah.
and that's about all you ever hear
Yep.
out of a mortgage company.
Yep.
But you talked about involving yourself quite a bit more, or at least making yourself more accessible. Can you walk me through a little slower how that works and how you grow this interpersonal relationship, and why it is a benefit to you and to them?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, for example, one of the first things we'd ask the consumer on our dreams and goals call, which is the first call we have where we're really discovering their needs and what their wants, is I would just say, Scott, have you ever gotten a mortgage before? Let's assume you have, and you'd say yes. And it's okay. Well, how often have you heard from your mortgage professional or that team to help you proactively plan for the future or manage your liability or make sure that you become a successful homeowner? And everyone laughs and they go, yeah, I've never heard from them, right? Outside of them trying to sell me a refinance, right? Or telling me that maybe I need to, pay more for taxes and insurance. I've never heard from them. And then we just apologize and we say, look, I'm really sorry that you're having that experience, right? We believe that because of our knowledge and our financial literacy, that we can help you in so many more ways than just providing you the debt needed to buy this home. So, Scott, what we're going to do is we're going to help you before the transaction in some very unique ways. We're going to help you during the transaction in a way where you can experience the joy of becoming a homeowner. But the reason why you're really going to love partnering with us is because we are proactively going to help you for the next 30 plus years in ways that you've really never experienced. Because our goal is to help you not just own a home, but to be a successful homeowner. So when the transaction closes, we have a client success team at Neo, and these team people are trained on personal financial wealth, uh, generational wealth building. They're trained in every aspect of real estate or finance, and they get on the phone with you and say, all right, Scott, I'm going to explain to you what we're going to do for you and your family now for the next 30 years, right? We show them all the technology they're going to use. They get a personal wealth app called the Neo Experience, where they manage all their bank statements and their credit and their liabilities, and it gives them credit score updates every month. They get a personal home concierge that helps them with home maintenance, home repairs, home upkeep. It, tells them what they should be looking for, things they need to be doing, gives them the ability to easily order stuff in their home. Um, we make sure that they are connected with all the right partners that are needed, right? So if they want to maximize their tax liabilities, we introduce them to, tax planning firms. We want to make sure that they're protected, right? So we want to make sure they have the appropriate life insurance. We want to make sure that they have an estate plan or will or trust in the event that anything happens. And ultimately, we want to make sure that they, with their new mortgage payment and with their new monthly cash flow, that they know how to manage that ultimately to grow their wealth long term, right? We then are reaching out to them and managing their liability on a consistent basis. So every client knows what their strike payment is. So Scott, you're paying $3,500 a month today, but I want you to know as soon as we can get you to 3,250 with no cost, right, which is roughly this interest rate, we're going to lock that in for you immediately. We'll send you disclosures. We'll do all these things so our clients have the confidence to know they're always going to be in the right loan at the right time. And then every single year with our clients, we do annual financial reviews, right? What's happening in their life, what's changing, what's evolving. Are we setting goals for new real estate? Do we want to turn your existing property into an investment property? What's happening with your parents? What's happening with your children? We believe that if any of our past clients that we've worked with, if they call us and tell us that they want to buy, sell, or finance a home, that we have failed. Because managing through that process is incredibly challenging, as you just stated. We believe that we should be so proactively engaged with our clients that we help them decide when to buy, sell, or finance properties. And then we just work with them, month in and month out, year in and year out towards those goals. And everything that we built here at Neo and Better is built to do that. Our technology, our teams, our processes. And again, if you look at our reviews, that's why our clients choose us, because they can get a loan anywhere, right? But nobody's going to commit to helping them in this regard. And that's genuinely what people need. It's just not what they know because no one's ever offered to it before.
How did this sort of idea come about?
It was really, in 2018, I was one of the top 25 mortgage lenders in the country. And I was on magazine covers and getting awards and being celebrated, but I really wasn't fulfilled with the fact that I was being praised for being one of the top debt salespeople in the country. And I looked back at my clients, and they would go back into debt after we helped them get out of debt, right? They would buy a home and sell it too early, right? Or they wouldn't sell it, and they would, pay down the mortgage way too fast and not have enough cash flow to grow their wealth. Or, I had a client call me in 2018 and said, my husband passed away. He got in a car accident. Now we have to sell our house. And I said, well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but life insurance is going to step in and it'll pay off the house and, help you with the kids. And of course, she didn't have life insurance. And I genuinely thought that was my fault. And everyone tried to tell me it wasn't. Like, Ryan, you're a loan officer. You don't sell life insurance. It's like, well, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I own a home. And guess what? I have life insurance. Why? Because someone thought enough of me to tell me why it was important. And the fact that we don't do that as an industry is ridiculous. It's inappropriate. Right. So how can we really say that we're helping people if all we're doing is giving them the debt that they require? We're not actually helping them make the decision. And then once they make the decision, we close the loan and then we don't do anything for them. Right. And we expect them to just call us back when they figure out that they want to buy another home, or they figure out that it's time to refinance. Like, the whole thing's ridiculous. Right. And so I told myself I don't want to be anything other than the cheapest lender in the country unless I can quantifiably show our clients that they'll be more generationally wealthy with our partnership. And we've been working on it for the past 7 years. But the thing that we were missing was a big enough loudspeaker, right? We weren't getting in front of enough clients because we were all just networking, grow by referral, get your database. Little did we know that, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people every month are going online trying to DIY this thing, right? Trying to figure out if they should buy a home themselves. And they're getting scared, right? They're looking at the payment and then they shut down. And then, maybe they own a home and they're outgrowing the home, but they don't know how to get to the next one. But they're never going to call a mortgage professional, right? Because they just see us as salespeople. They're only going to call us once they've made the decision. So we want every person in America to know you can and should call a Neo Home Loans mortgage advisor years in advance before you ever consider buying a home, right? And then once you do, you're going to have us in your corner years after. Right? And our commitment, like, we measure our success at Neo based upon how successful our clients become, not how many loans we do, not what our revenue is. We really look at, like, are we making an impact in the lives of our clients? And if we're not, then we're doing it wrong.
Now, you had mentioned that this effort sort of started back in 2018. So you've really only been at this a handful of years. I would assume that your long-term vision here is also growing your clientele, because pretty soon you're going to have the the children of the homeowners looking for home
Yeah,
loans
like,
themselves. They're all going to get older.
absolutely. I had a client one time, and it was 2 years after we helped him and buy his home. And he calls me one day and he goes, Ryan, when you first told me what you guys were going to do for me and my family after closing, I just thought it was like a sales tactic. I didn't really expect it. He goes, but for 2 years, you and your team have been helping me month in and month out, year in and year out. I have not once expressed that I plan on buying another home or refinancing. I have a, 2.75% interest rate from when you helped me in 2021. He's like, why do you do this? Like, what do you get out of it? and his name was Michael. And I said, Michael, your family is experiencing exactly what we get out of it. Right? Like you guys are connected with a financial planner now, right? And you're making better financial decisions, right? We're managing your liability for you, even though you have a low rate. It doesn't mean that, there's never an opportunity to understand leverage on your home, right? Like you have a ton of equity in your property. We can help you understand how to utilize that appropriately, right? We helped you understand what to do with your parents because his parents may need a reverse mortgage in the next 3 years. And if we just help you become very successful, then we'll never have to spend another dollar on marketing again because you'll go tell everybody that there's a different way to engage with the financing company. And this is what you now expect, and this is what your friends and family should expect, and this is what your parents are getting help with. And when your children are older, then we'll help them the same way. And so we have a lot of raving fans because we are doing something that the mortgage industry has never done.
So let's say I was a first-time home buyer or someone who hasn't bought a property in a long time. Can you sort of walk me through the process on, okay, I would like to start looking for a home, which means you have to start looking for a mortgage. What would be the process in pretty much starting from scratch or restarting later in life?
Well, for anybody, it doesn't really matter when. It's kind of like the planting a tree example, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but second best time is today, right? So we don't tell our clients that they have to worry about what they did or did not do in the past. But what we need to do is educate them on what's likely to happen in the future. And we tell every client the same thing. Like, I want you to know that we are not going to try and sell you a mortgage, and we're not going to try and convince you to buy a house. What we're going to do is we're going to give you all the information and all of the education that you need to make a really confident decision. And if we do the analysis of your situation and we feel like it's not the right time for you to buy a property, then we'll just work on a plan and a strategy and a timeline to get you there. Right. So we're never going to say no. We're just going to say not yet. And here's the next steps on what to do. But for the families that can, right, and more importantly, for the families that should, our job as mortgage professionals is to help them understand why they should. Right. Because it's not an obvious thing. Right. You'd be paying two grand a month for rent, and all of a sudden you're pre-approved for mortgage at $3,500 a month. Well, you're approved, but nobody wants to pay $1,500 more per month to buy a house. Question is, should they? And without the right information and education, most people are just the answer is going to be no if they do it themselves. Right. So we have to show them, what the equity portion of their payment is, right? How they're paying principal down, the potential tax advantages, the long-term equity creation, rent versus own analysis, increased property values over time. And we really have to kind of allow them to see the future in a way that, the average person is not trained to see. And then, if we've convinced them that they should, and they realize, okay, yeah, this makes sense. We have to do this. Right. And then we help them go execute. We make them look like a cash offer when they write their offer, ideally increasing the likelihood they get their offer accepted, lowering the purchase price on the home because now they don't have to compete with other properties that are on the market, that other people that are bidding up the home. And then we call the listing agent and help them get the offer accepted. And so we if our value is 100% of the pie, we tell our clients 30% of our value is going to be before the transaction ever starts. And for all those reasons, that's how we're going to help you. Only 10% of it's going to be during the transaction, right? It's going to be important, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just 30 days. The most important thing that we're going to do for you and your family, Scott, is we're going to help you for the next 30 plus years. And that's about 60% of our value overall to you. But that's why our clients really enjoy working with us, is because right now it's just a moment in time. Right. But your life, you'll be different a year from now. Things are going to change. You're going to make more or less money. You're going to have different credit scores. You're going to have different assets. You're going to have different liabilities. Right. You're going to have different things happening in your life. And we believe that's our responsibility. And I think that the more people start to understand that they should expect that from a mortgage company, the better they'll be at being able to diligence one company from the next.
What is your background in finance? How did you get here, and what makes this job still personal for you?
I was going to be an attorney my whole younger life, and I was enrolled in law school after college. I had kind of become disenchanted with the legal system because I had worked in it for about 4 or 5 years, end of high school, all through college. I just didn't know what else to do, and I had to defer my enrollment to law school for a year just because I didn't have any money to pay for law school. And in that year off, I found my way to the mortgage industry through my brother-in-law. And I just thought, well, I'll do this to make some money to save for law school. And this was 2005, so 20 years ago. And I started out just call center doing refis, and really didn't get into what I would consider like the relationship-based lending model until 2011. That's when I really believe that I started my career. That's when I did my first purchase loan. I met my first real estate agent. Right? I really was kind of what I would consider more of a mortgage professional than a loan officer. And from 2011 to 2018, I just evolved and tried to look at the market differently, and became one of the top originators in the country. But you've heard the saying, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I was successful by normal metrics, but I was not fulfilled in any way. Although the market is harder today, and although it's a more challenging environment for a lot of reasons, there's never been another time in my career where I've been more inspired to do this work, where I've been more optimistic about the future we have, where I felt like we can make as big of an impact, right? Because before we were just kind of a small $2 billion mortgage group, and in our little local markets, and we just didn't have a big enough loudspeaker. But because of the partnership with Better, we now get to tell our story to more people. Right? We get to work with real estate agents and builders that we may not have had the opportunity to, because now we can bring business to the table for them. And we have technology that allows us to just do our best work, right? And not get bogged down in minutia. And we've created a ton of safety within our organization, because we don't have to hire and fire as rates go up and down, because our technology, kind of it neutralizes all those things. And so, yeah, I'm more excited, I'm working harder, and I'm more inspired than I've ever been for the next, couple decades of this industry.
This has been the Mortgage Note Podcast. We've been speaking with Ryan Grant, president of Neo Home Loans, powered by Better.